All right, good morning. This is Steve Moreland, and this is Better Each Day. And I'm just turning up my volume a little bit just to make sure I can hear everyone. Glad you're tuning in. And if you're not with us live, then you are watching this obviously by replay. And we're glad you're here as well. I know it's hard for everyone to line up their schedules when we're dealing with time zones all over the world with other people's obligations. But I wanted to welcome you, say thank you for being here. The focus of Better Each Day is around a training program that I created a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago. I actually published it in 2015 in its formal version called Rubicon. And Rubicon has an ethos that in Latin is Omnat Curiam Victoriam. And someone someday is going to be, I'm going to be on here doing one of these calls, and there's going to be a professor of linguistics on here, and they're going to say, "You butchered the Latin. That's not the way you say it." But to me, phonetically, that's the way it sounds. Here's the most important thing is what does it translate to? And it translates to victory loves preparation. Okay, so how does that affect us in becoming better each day? Well, here that's what we're going to talk about today. And so what we focus on here about better each day is how do we become better? What is it that we can do? And if you love the ethos behind the idea is victory loves preparation. Um, the Greeks and even the Romans had a really unique way of talking about philosophy and giving a concept almost a human perspective. And so we're talking about victory. When you say victory, loving preparation, you were actually, I guess you would say it personifying or I think it's anthropomorphization, I think is the correct $75 word for this Texan that I picked up somewhere along the way. The idea is how does victory love preparation? Well, really what you're talking about is victory, the way that you get to celebrate victory in your life comes by loving a concept called preparation. And if you've been part of the Rubicon system, Better Each Day, you've heard me talk about the 5 Ps, which is prior, preparation, planning, and practice delivers your performance. And so that's the kind of the reason how you see me connecting all these dots together. Victory loves preparation. Well, preparation is one of the 5 Ps that produces what? Your performance. So I go back to a lot of the training that I had growing up. My father was Marine Recon, wounded with many of his team members on the DMZ, didn't return home from their last mission. So he got home to find this 1-year-old sitting on his doorstep and said, "I don't know what to do with this little guy, so I'm going to send him to my version of Marine boot camp for the next 17 years. Lucky me. But the cool thing about it is, what are Marines really, really good at? Think about this. Yes, I know they call them bullet sponges and jarheads and leather necks and devil dogs, and they're ferocious and capable and never quit and always running into the fray when everybody's running out of it. But think about it. What is it when you hear
Discipline.
about a Marine? What is it that you think about? Why are they so good at winning?
Discipline.
Discipline. Yes, Nisa, that's right. Discipline. And what is it about that discipline that makes you think when you see Marine, you see him in the uniform, whether it's the dress or, you know, their normal battle fatigues, battle dress uniform. What is it that you think? What is it that you say, if I have a Marine on my side, or I have a Marine squad or Marine platoon, why do we have a higher chance of winning than the guys on the other side?
They're highly
They're prepared.
focused.
Okay, highly focused. And then, Linda, I heard you say prepared.
Prepared.
Yeah. Okay, and highly focused. All these things are all coming together. Disciplined, highly focused, prepared. The preparation that Marines do on a regular basis, and I know this because I grew up hearing the stories in the shadow of my father. What did they do these near superhuman level of performance? And superhuman means to the extent that it was almost like Superman that came from another planet, right? There was an alien to our world. That's really not true. What is extraordinary about Marines and their ability to overcome every and any obstacle, including attacking a fortified beachhead. That's what Marines are especially designed to do. Before that, they were specifically part Early on, they were actually incorporated before the United States of America. If you know a little bit of history, they were actually incorporated a year before the United States declared its independence from Britain. Marines were on naval vessels, merchant vessels, and there was usually a few of them. And they were really highly trained about attacking an enemy on another ship that just happened to go side by side. Now, who wants to sign up for that job? No.
No.
Okay. But it was something that was necessary to do in order for in protecting our borders, and so forth. So these individuals had to do something that was, in the minds of most people, impossible. How do you attack an enemy that's on another floating vessel that's just going to come by you for a moment, and you got to be able to get over to the other one? And when you get there, you're going to be outnumbered by 5 or 10 or maybe 20 to 1. You're going to have to do a whole lot of fighting real fast, and you can't lose because there's no one coming to get you. Okay? That's what Marines were designed to do early on. Okay? And then they continued to expand their role. So as I grew up, it was all of these things about how you had your zip line, which is how your buttons go down the front of your shirt. It was a matter of taking care that as you're looking at your zip line and making sure it's, quote, squared away, what you were looking for is things called Irish pennants. And those are those little stray threads that come up out of the buttonholes. Everybody know what those are? You've seen them before? Okay. So that was a no-no. You're not allowed to have those at any time for any reason. So when you get dressed, the first thing you do is you inspect yourself, looking at your collars and everything to make sure there's no Irish pennants. And what do? You either snip them or you take a little lighter and you burn them off. Because if you have someone with rank that catches that in front of you, you get pulled up on report. Because that means that you are not what? Prepared.
Prepared.
It's the little small preparations, constant and never ending recognition, self-awareness, situational awareness of what's going on in your environment. And you're like, God, Steve, that just sounds like a never-ending task. And the answer is yes, it was. And guess what? It still is today. The question, when you come back to it, is why are all those little things such a necessary part? Because why? Prior preparation, planning, and practice delivers what?
Performance.
Now, if we're going to talk about, I'm going to show a little video here today of Sean Acor and his research at Harvard when he was going for his master's, or I think his doctorate in divinity. And he stumbled upon this research and was able to actually quantify with metrics what happens when you bring happiness into your world on a conscious basis. Well, it increases your productivity by 31%. How many want a 31% boost in your capability? Everybody wants that, right? Why not? So what could we do? Well, is it going to take us 10 extra hours a day? No, how about less than 10 minutes per day? In fact, if you do it right, you could do it less than 5. So how about a 30% boost in performance by doing some simple practices that take you less than 5 minutes? Everybody in?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the whole concept of Better Each Day. That's where we start this first segment that we do 30 minutes, and then we do 2 other ones. So we're going to do 3 30-minute segments. If you can stay for all of them today, great. If not, thank you for being here for the first one, and then I'll share the links for the second and third. If you can stay, great. If not, you can catch the replay. What we want to be able to do is help you with the tools and the techniques that give you the maximum level of change management. So you adjust your behavior in very small but important methods that allow your performance to do what? To become better each day. And if you become better each day and your performance becomes better each day, then that means you're affecting the world to do what?
That's better each day.
You're making the world better each day. So
Yeah.
doing a global change begins with you.
Mhm.
And how many of you had a tough week?
Yes.
How many of you had a tough week? Okay. All right. I had a tough week. Okay. I'm going to sit here and admit it. A lot of weeks, all the training, all the practice I go through, I crush them and I go, got it, done, fantastic, next level. This week, I got my tail kicked. Just straight up. It was a tough week. Some contracts that I had put in that I thought were done and contracts and clients were ready to go, lost them last minute, unexpected. big setbacks. Um, those things don't ever feel better. Okay, why? Because when you put your heart and soul into something and you really do things that in your life they come from the center of your soul. Okay, they're not willy nilly. They're not accidental. They're things that you plan, prepare, and practice, and then you deliver the performance. And what happens? You lose the
It's
game.
still, yeah.
Now, one of the things, and going back to, I'm going to go back to my early childhood that I went to Marine boot camp for 17 years. One of the key things that my father taught me, and I go back to this because he's still my first and my greatest hero, is you never want to lose a battle for preventable reasons. What does that mean?
It means you do what if you're preparing yourself in every way, then what is out, if you lose to, if you lose to things that are out of your control, then you will feel better. But if you lose something because you didn't prepare something,
Mhm.
you're going to feel terrible.
Yes. And so if you're going to go into an environment, and y'all know that I mean, I have a challenge coin here that I carry that sits on my desk, not dead, can't quit. And it connects to my dog tag that I wear, which is the same thing, not dead, can't quit, NDCQ. So it's constantly reminding me, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? What are we trying to do about making a better world? Why do we care when you look around at so many other people? And I feel that so many people take advantage of every opportunity, and they're takers, getters, as opposed to givers. Do y'all
Mhm.
feel that sometimes?
Yes.
And
Yes.
sometimes you feel like you're a lone wolf out here howling at the moon. And you go,
Hmm.
is there anybody else? Well, you know what? That's why I love hanging out with y'all. Okay. I'm from Texas, so I can say y'all. So I love hanging out with y'all. And for those of you that can't be with us live, I love you being able to hang out with us as well, even if it's replay. Because what it does is it creates solidarity, it creates a unification that there are those of us that have refused to quit. The stress of COVID is still here. It's just kind of fallen backwards in the news lines because we have the Ukraine, we have the economies, all of that stimulus money that was pumped into all of our economies. Doesn't matter where you live in the world. That is now the day of reckoning is coming. And so we're seeing inflation prices skyrocket. We're seeing supply chains issues interrupted. We right now, I was watching yesterday since I'm a YouTube nerd. I'm always studying economics because that's something that I get and I see it. 12% of the global grains that we eat come from the Ukraine and Russia right now.
Yeah.
And they are not going to be here next year. No, because why? They're fighting because a bully decided to attack a smaller, not defenseless, but certainly a country that there was no reason for this to happen. But in the middle of this skirmish, all those huge open lands that are designed to grow grains that affect the world. This is going to affect our food prices. This is going to affect our supply chain. 12% is gone for next year, and maybe the next couple of years. Who knows when it'll come back online? So you keep adding all these things together. Now, why do I study that? I just gave you the reason. Victory loves preparation. For you not to pay attention to those things, I'm not talking about watching sensationalized news. That does not give you good content. I'm sorry. Last week we talked about listening to 3 minutes of negative news a morning, 3 minutes of negative news in the morning. 9 hours later, you still have a 20% reduction in your attitude. 9 hours later. Okay. So listening to sensationalized news isn't the thing. Why do I study small snippets of news that come from what I call high end resources that are not there to sensationalize it, just to give you statistical data, usually coming from a professor or someone that's an industry vertical expert? They're not there to be showing off on CNBC or CNN or MSNBC, any of that. That's not the deal. They're there to say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's how this should forecast out. Here's how to be prepared. So you're planning, you're practicing, and you're preparing. Why? Because you want to perform. If you know something is not going to show up as you expected it, why? Then you're not going to fail for preventable reasons. Does that make sense? So you see how the mind works. This is how the training's worked over now 40 something years since I started training under my dad. Maybe longer than that, 50 something years now, because I'm 54. So we're not going to fail for preventable reasons. That means we need to keep a situational awareness open. You need to pay attention to those things that truly affect us. You need to be thinking of what would I do and how can I plan and prepare so that while I have the time to do it, it doesn't come up and bite me in the dark. Okay? Just a simple concept. Now, if our focus and our ethos of Rubicon is victory loves preparation, and the idea of better each day is we don't want to lose for preventable reasons, then what we have found is a method or a formula that if you plan and you prepare and you practice, we are going to get a result from that. And the result is our performance. If Darren Hardy wrote a great book called The Compounding Effect, fantastic book. Where you are at right now in life is a result of what? Anybody read his book?
Yeah.
Everything that you have done up to this point. So all of those actions and inactions, things that you've done, things that you failed to do, things that you did well because you planned, prepared, and practiced, and then you performed well, and those things that you said, I don't care. I'll just wing it. And then you performed not so well. So all of those things combined together is where you are in life, and it is why you are where you are in life. That either makes you feel really good right now or makes you go, ugh, Steve, I wish you hadn't told me that. Why? Because that makes who responsible? Me. Yeah, yourself, not somebody else. Okay? It's all of those little tiny actions all combined together create a compounding effect called where I am today, who I am today. Now, accountability is the first thing that we have to have in order to what? Create change. If you don't like your performance right now, if you don't like where you're at right now, what does this formula tell you you can do? Doreen?
Definitely change.
You can change. How? How would you do that using the formula?
Plan your day of the night before.
Yeah,
Definitely prepare.
implement the
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Implement the process. Yeah, got to plan
Right.
everything.
And so in your situation, one of the first things you went to right away, and I called you impromptu because you get great answers this way, okay?
Thanks.
First thing that you did was plan your tomorrow the day before.
Mhm.
Whoa. Do you know where that came from? You know a famous person that did that every single day? The guy that made the light bulb. I'm blanking right now. I haven't had enough
Edison.
coffee.
Alexander Graham Bell.
Thomas Edison.
Edison, yes. It was Edison. Yeah, Edison. So every night before he went to sleep, he had a journal. And he planned out his day the next day on what he wanted to accomplish. And he'd actually make that as his planning. That was his practice that he did for decades. And look at the number of patents that man created. But what happened to him? Anybody know? When he was trying to make the incandescent bulb?
He failed almost 1,000 times
Yes.
doing the bulb. And when he was interviewed, somebody says, "Are you upset that you failed 1,000 times?" And he said, "No, I learned 1,000 ways of how not to make a light bulb."
Exactly. So
Yeah.
what we're seeing right there is mindset. Where did that mindset of that tenacity, that dogged determination, how many of us, if we were in a lab and we were trying to create something that had never been created before, that everyone else said can't be done, and we tried, and first time all you saw was a little smoke. So you ran current through something and it lit it up, and it light burned for a second and then it smoked. And the next one went through, didn't do anything. Third time it went through, blew up. Fourth time it went through, caught the table on fire. Okay? And how many of us would have gone, that's it. This whole idea of building a light bulb, putting fire inside of a glass tube and having it burn, that's just nuts. No one else has ever done it. I don't even know if anybody else wants it. So I'm going to quit. How many times would you have continued to do it over and over? Failure after failure after failure after failure after failure after failure. Hmm.
I think the maximum would have been 10, 15, maybe 20.
Yeah, because guess what happens? Guess what you feel when, and I'm going to use Tom Hopkins,
Disappointed.
what he taught me a long time ago. He said, failure is not failure as long as you do what?
Learn something from it.
Learn something from it. Okay. So what we need is a
But
better,
also not quitting,
um,
because failure only becomes failure once you stop.
that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Failure. So really, if you want to tweak Tom Hopkins saying, I tweaked it over time to say failure is not failing unless you fail to learn something from it. Okay? So you're correct, Nisa. Failure is when you finally just say, I'm down for the count, I give up, throwing the towel, I'm done. As long as you keep doing the Rocky thing where you're trying to climb back up on the ropes, keep trying to get back up one more time, what you don't know is the competition, the other person or the other thing in life called mediocrity that's constantly battling with us, that's whispering in your ear to just quit, lay down. I'm going to beat you. I'm stronger. I'm the world champion. You aren't even ranked. Okay. You're lucky to even be here. That's what was Apollo Creed was talking all the time in Rocky's ears. I'm giving you an opportunity to get famous on my ticket. Okay, I'm the best. I'm the world champion. Remember all of that smack that you hear them talk before the fight, right? And at the end of the day, both of them were incredible fighters, incredible shape. And the reason why everybody loves the Rocky story is why it was just 1 second difference. Just one person, one soul had one more second to continue to do what? To struggle and strive for a worthy cause. Dr. Viktor Frankl. That's what life is about. Struggling and striving for a worthy cause. Wow. So everybody's going like, well, Steve, how do you have the tenacity every morning to get up, even in a week like this, when you had your tail kicked, okay? You lost some big things, you lost some strategic relationships, you lost some partners, things didn't go like they were supposed to, okay? Morning, Bob. Glad to have you. And when you have weeks like that, how are you still sitting here in the morning and doing your time management? If you look at my Google Calendar, everything, all the time slots are all organized and slotted. Why? It's the same thing as a zip line, right? I'm not going to fail for preventable reasons. If something happened and a strategic partner just decided for whatever reason they're going with someone else, or hey, they didn't like my really cool looking jacket here that I have, okay? So some of my friends say that I should burn this because they hate it, okay? I like it. Amy got it for me, and it's really warm. And I live in Bend, Oregon. It's cold here, okay? So I wear it because it's pretty comfortable, okay? But here's the funny thing. We're about having a life that feels what? Full of meaning. And part of Better Each Day is helping you first discover what is your meaning? What is meaningful to you? What is your gravestone? You've heard me talk about this many times. Is you begin with the end in mind. You begin with how do you want your life to, what do you want it to have represented? What do you want carved and etched into that stone when your time is done that memorializes what you did during the time that you existed? Do you want your life, the breath that you were given by the Creator, do you want it to have had meaning? Do you want it to have mattered? Well, if the answer to that is yes, that you just don't want to irreverence the Creator by living a life willy-nilly, okay, where did that phrase come from? That's not a Texas phrase. What is willy-nilly, okay? I don't know. I think everybody gets the
It
idea.
might be an English phrase, who knows?
Who knows? Willy-nilly, it might sound like that, okay? So, but we get the idea, okay? Willy-nilly is living life undisciplined, living it without that squared awayness. It's not a go with the flow because that's actually a different concept. It's a disregard for having to do anything in life that's going to create value. Okay, and many people, in my observation, tend to live like that. And then what do they do after they get poor results?
Blame somebody
They
else.
blame someone. You hear the cries, the tears, the pity, self-pity. Someone did something bad to me. The world was bad to me. God was bad to me. And I know this because I've done this before, okay? Self-admission, right? I've done this before. And at the end of the
Victim
day,
mindset.
I'm sorry?
It's a victim mindset.
It's a victim mindset. Sure it is. And so being aware of that and realizing, hey, that doesn't help me better myself if I don't take what? Responsibility for me and my actions and my thinking, my preparation, my planning, my practice, then my performance is whose fault? My own. And it is a result of Darren Hardy's concept, the compounding effect of everything I have done and failed to do all of my life. Now, I'm here to give you this concept right now because the beautiful thing about this is what? You can change the future. You are in control of what you can do with the future. Why? Because you can do and change your planning, your practice, and your preparation. That includes your mindset, includes your daily activity. It includes, like Doreen mentioned here, doing your preparation of how you'd like for your day tomorrow to come out by setting a plan. And here's the deal. Once you plan, is it going to come out like the plan, Doreen? How often does it come out? Not often. Does it come out exactly like it? But
No, not always, but it's nice. It's nice to have that preparation, those things in place where when you wake up, it's like, I got this
Right.
laid out. Doesn't always happen, but it's
Right.
nice to have it.
So then you fall back to Winston Churchill saying, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. And I've read that for years. Again, I'm from Texas, so I have to do things over and over a lot to get through the thick skull, okay? The whole part about that, I think that's called a conundrum, okay? Tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think that's called a conundrum or something like that, okay? So plans are worthless, but planning is everything. So that sounds like he just made two statements and they don't agree with each other. So I kept thinking
Sounds like
about
a contradiction.
a contradiction. There you go. Conundrum, a contradiction. Yes. So I thought about this. And again, going back to all the training my dad gave me, plans are worthless. And so I knew when they created a plan for his recon squad to go out and do surveillance and reconnaissance, the plan that they had very seldom ever came out. The path that they were going to take, the helo insertion, how many days they were going to be out, what type of enemy force they were going to run into or engage, all those kind of things. But it was their planning all the way back to boot camp, to the very first day of straightening the gig line, okay? Putting things in order, thinking about the process ahead of time, doing your drills again and again and again, and then again and again and again, and then again and again and again, so that it became muscle memory. You didn't have to think about it. You performed at a level of excellence because your preparation, your planning, your practice had been done prior to when you needed it. Does everybody get that? So
Yes, Steve.
go
If
ahead.
I can just kind of comment on what you've just explained. When you started off, it sounded so much like a contradiction, but coming to think of it, it just took me back to what they say about how a spaceship gets to the moon. They say that a human being can calculate within seconds of its landing time of how it's going to get to the moon. But at the same time, they say that 99.9% of the time, they have to constantly be correcting, course correction.
Correct.
So the plan was there that they're going to land at this time, but the planning is a continuous process.
Absolutely. And I hadn't heard that about the moon. What I had heard is the
Aeroplanes.
airplanes, that if you leave LAX and you're headed for Honolulu, that the plane is actually off course 97% of the time. And with a small minor failure to continue to what? Adjust to the beacon of the outcome, beginning with the end in mind. I want to land on that runway in Honolulu. If you don't continue to adjust, off course, return to the course, off course, return to the course, then what happens? You land out in the ocean in a bad situation with no one able to come help you, with 300 people on a plane in the water. Not a good idea. So it's the constant course correction, But the point that we're trying to make here, and I know we've got to finish this one and go to the next call. So is you have to know what your destination is. Begin with the end in mind. What is the trophy that you want your life to have meant? What is the reason for your existence? And those are those questions that you have to spend personal time with yourself and your creator and asking and journaling and finding out what is that? Because it's the questions that provide the answers. Don't just adopt somebody else's answers. Don't take Tony Robbins or Oprah Winfrey, as magnificent as those one people are. Their meaningfulness is not your meaningfulness. You've got to spend time doing your research, getting alone, going out in nature, sitting by a river, by a lake, by the ocean, up in the mountains, and getting away from the interruptions of your mobile and sitting there with the time to deeply ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I doing this thing called life? And as you've seen me do this practice with Nisa before, we ask 5 times. Every time you get an answer, you're going to use why and drill down deeper to find out what? The real reason why you're doing things. But you have to do it 5 times. It's called the Toyota way. Okay? It's used in corporate project management. I use it for life project management because it helps us get down to what is the real feeling, the visceral driver at the center of our soul that is going to give us that aha. It's going to give us that eureka. It's going to give us that feeling that what we did while we were here mattered. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, is why we're all here together, or we're all hanging out together, and what we can do to make the world a better place. True?
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm going to give everybody the link right now to the next 30 minutes. If you can hang out with us, I'm going to give you the Zoom link right now in the chat. And there you go. That should get you on. And I will see you in a few minutes. And we're going to talk more about using the compass to get you some bearing in your life. And we'll spend a little more time talking about Sean Acor and a cool article that came out by Harvard Business Review on how to get you that little extra happiness. All right. See you in a few minutes. All right. Bye.